Well, hello to you all once again, and thanks once more for returning to my Vintage Off-Road YouTube channel as we continue to explore more of those old, long-lost racing machines from back in the day. Now, in this next featured video, we're going to look at something very different from those nicely polished, shiny motocrossers we normally feature, and look at what you can put together with a bit of ingenuity and a few spanners. So stay right here for the next few minutes as we browse over a 1954 Maico 250 Classic Racer. Now, almost straight away you can see that this bike is not recognisable as one of those iconic legendary Maico motocross machines, and you would be almost 100% correct in that assumption, although this featured bike was never really an off-road scrambles bike at all initially, but that was until the bike's owner took an old 1954 250 Maico road bike and turned it into a budget race machine that he could use at pre-1965 Scrambles events. Now, by using this stock picture of a road-going 1954 250 Maico, this will give you just an idea of what the bike may have looked like prior to it being tore down to make into a motocross machine. Of course, this bike is blue in colour, whereas our featured bike is of course red. And thanks to Andy Tiernan Classics for the use of his picture. Now, the frame and the motor on our machine are the standard items from the 1954 road bike, although naturally things like the tank, the seat, the forks, front and rear mudguards and rear shocks have all been replaced with motocross related items. Now, of course, the bike is not the prettiest of scrambles machines ever made, but then again, it was never meant to be. The owner had an old 1954 road bike that he didn't use and wanted a pre-1965 motocross machine, and that's why he did this conversion. Now, the engine is a 1954 Maico 2-stroke single cylinder with a 4-speed gearbox. Now, these were decent enough engines for their time, although you have to remember that this is not a competition based motor and its performance would be very limited, but it would still have enough power to put a smile on your face getting around the racetrack, even although it was an ancient 1954 power plant. Now, I've also heard from a good source that the owner and rider of this machine is pretty handy on this bike, although it's not much to look at, but in the hands of this particular rider, this is quite a fast machine in terms of pre-65 scrambles. Now, as you can see, the owner of this bike has kept the original road-going carburetor on the Maico motor. Now, this is fine, although I'm not sure if there are a big collection of spare parts available for these old engines, but you have to applaud the owner for his commitment and tenacity to keep this old bike running. Now, the original road bike air filter housing was of course not suitable for use on the new Scrambles bike, so a bit of fettling and welding took place to manufacture this quite functional alloy airbox, which was then fitted with a fully washable foam filter. Now, these front forks are of course not from the original road bike, because these would have been worse than useless for this bike's purpose, although they do look like a pair of old Maico forks from maybe a later Maico, but these will work much better of course than the original road going forks. And once again, the standard road going wheels were too small for motocross use, and so a 21-inch front and an 18-inch rear wheel were put in place, not because they were bigger, but because you had a wider choice of knobbly motocross tyres to choose from. Now, with regards to the front hub, I'm not entirely sure if this was the hub from the road-going bike, but it certainly looks like a purpose-built Maico unit. But nevertheless, regardless of what make and model these front forks are, they look like they would certainly do a much better job than a pair of squishy road-going forks would have done. Now, the owner claimed that this rear hub is fitted with a cush drive. Now, these may have been fitted on the original road bike back in the day, although I'm not sure, but then again, it may be off a completely different motorcycle, but it certainly looks functional enough to be used on this made up Scrambles machine. This of course is mated to the 18-inch rear wheel, which is almost a must for use on these Scrambles machines. Now, the rear shocks from the road bike were basically just a set of springs with very little dampening, and you could never consider using these on a Scrambles machine, so the owner replaced them with a pair of slightly better rear springs and shock absorbers, and although these are not the best, these are still functional for this bike. Now, this very unique seat is another replacement part that is different from the original road bike, although I'm not sure what's going on with regards to this very steep angle, but then again, it's not myself that's actually riding the bike, so the owner must have his reasons for fitting this seat into this very obtuse angle. But it's certainly functional and very radical. Now, the 1954 Maico's road-going fuel tank again was changed for a tank from a more modern 1979 Maico, which with a bit of spanner work and a little bit of fettling was again fitted to the frame. Now, we know that the bike is a bit of a mishmash of different parts to make up this old crosser, but then again, this bike was made with many of the parts the owner had at his disposal. Now, I may be guessing here, but it looks like the owner has used the original road-going exhaust system from the old 54 bike. Now, it looks functional, and it's certainly tucked up out of harm's way, so it should be well out the way of any stones or debris that could damage it, so it looks like it could do a functional job on this old racer. Now, the donor 54 road-going handlebars were far too short and definitely unsuitable for classic motocross racing, so these were changed for a pair of decent rental items. Now, of course, the bike's not going to win any Concourse Classic Show Bike Awards anytime soon, and it's maybe not the most glamorous off-road motorcycle on the planet, but it is without doubt functional and does its job well enough as an old Pre1965 Scrambles machine. And so there you have it, something a little bit different on my channel today. A bike that was never really an off-road machine at all, built to a budget from what was an old 1954 road-going Maico. So let it never be said that I always feature flashy, blinged up motocrossers here on my channel, and this little budget racer just goes to show the ingenuity of some of my YouTube viewers. But of course, there are lots more of these types of vintage racers still to feature on my channel coming up soon, so if this is the kind of motorcycles that get your plums pumping, then simply subscribe to my channel for more of these motocross classics. So until the next time, be safe out there riding those old classic motocross machines, and we'll speak again very soon. This video was brought to you in association with WorldSport, the world's #1 supplier for all your off-road and leisure sportswear. Just visit their online website for more information.